Toontrack Session Organ EKX is a sound expansion for EZkeys 2. You must own EZkeys 2 to use it. This EKX is based on the Hammond organ, which was a groundbreaking substitute for the pipe organ almost a century ago, and a huge inspiration to modern-day synthesizers. Besides the release of the core program EZkeys 2, I would say this is easily the most anticipated EZkeys product in Toontrack history since people have been requesting it non-stop for over a decade. The audio you're hearing is from Ricard, who is somehow triggering EZkeys 2 with his B3 Style Organ controller. I don't know exactly what product he's using, comment below if you know, but if you search Hammond Midi controllers, there are a lot of cool products out there to help make playing this product as authentic as possible for live and studio players, which we'll set up later. Today we'll hear all the 29 library presets, a sample from all of the 16 songs, and towards the end I will help demystify the controls of this organ for those who are not familiar, and also introduce the new features that Toontrack had to introduce in EZkeys 2 just to get this organ experience to be as versatile as possible. It's pretty exciting. We'll also notice that when it comes to MIDI, that there are two new MIDI sorting filters on the Grooves tab called Organ and including Bass Pedal. And besides the songs, there are additional MIDI folders for fills, basic patterns, arpeggios, and ostinatos. Before we start, keep in mind that we audition the library presets and their effects panel, but there are many other ways to manipulate your sound, which we will not cover until the end of this video. Let's get started. Let's start off with the first song called Flying High. It's a ballad song. And before we really dig into what's in the effects panel, I want to introduce to you this Leslie speaker cabinet, if you don't know about it, and the rotary speed toggle switch. As you can see, it's moving on its own back and forth. Inside this Leslie speaker cab, there's a higher frequency speaker at the top that spins around. And in the middle, there's a bass frequency speaker that's shooting downwards into a spinning baffle. This all creates like a wavering effect or a tremolo effect that's very strong. It's very dense. It's highly sought after as well. So Hammond and Leslie, they're two different companies. I don't think Hammond even liked Leslie, but the users, the players love them. They pair these together, and this is the traditional fantastic sound, right? But back to how the MIDI in this toggle switch correspond. As you can see, this switch is happening on its own. The studio musicians that recorded the session organ EKX, not only were they playing both manuals, the top, the bottom, and maybe the foot switches down below, but they're also toggling this switch all while they're playing live. You know, you got to be an expert to do this stuff. It's fantastic. All that data is recorded, not just the keystrokes, but the switches too. And if you go over to the grid editor, there's a new rotary speed lane. It's where all the sustain information is, this rotary speed lane. And here we can see that toggle going from fast to slow and back and forth. So that's why that switch is going back and forth. In case you're playing the MIDI and you see that switch going back and forth and you try and grab a hold of it and say, I want you over here, and then it switches back on you. That's why it's switching back on you, okay? And if you are composing your own stuff here and you want to draw that information in, you just grab the pencil tool and you click and drag, and look, I just drew in a fast toggle. You can mouse over the side and shorten that up or make it longer, or you could right click on a fast block and make it be a break. And we didn't talk about break yet, but break is in the middle, and break just, it's pause would be a better way to say it, I think. It just makes the rotary speakers stop spinning so you don't get the wah 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 effect anymore. The thing about, you know, this being like some old school stuff that's almost 100 years old, right? You know, they're using motors. So when you hit break or you hit pause, you don't know where that speaker actually stops rotating. So you get a different tone depending on where it decided to pause. So that's interesting. And one more thing that's interesting is when you go from slow, I'm on slow right now, we can hear a slight waver, wow, wow. When you go up to fast, it doesn't switch to fast like that. it ramps up. Like when you're driving a car, you go 30 miles an hour and you want to go 60, you just don't hit the gas pedal and you're all of a sudden at 60. You have to accelerate up to 60. And that's the same way the rotary works. That motor's got to spin harder and harder and harder until it gets up to speed. So check it out. It took some time to get up there. So these expert organ players, you know, they have a feel for that acceleration and deceleration. So they hit it preemptively to get it up to speed at the right time for the next session, and so on and so forth. So that's the introduction to the Leslie speaker, the rotary speed, and you're going to see me hopping over to the grid editor and disabling this rotary speed lane just so I can put this on break or pause so we can better focus on the other effects. So let's get rocking. All right, let's check out the second song. It's called 60s Ballad. It's the second ballad. So there's a lot of repeat modules, effects modules throughout this EKX, like any other EKX. So I'm gonna maybe take my time at the beginning and then just start flying through them because this is gonna be a long video. We have plate reverb. So let me pause it right away. Let's check this out. Let me just crank it up so we can hear what's going on. Fantastic. So we have a low under here on mic control, microphones on the cabinet. I assume they're placed outside these slit holes, these vent holes. There's a low-high balance. You see this knob a lot. So low means only the microphones recording the bottom cabinet are heard, and high means only the high microphones up here on this part of the cabinet, and then you balance that tone. And it's really helpful, you know, if someone in your band or your production is taking a lead and you're on organ, you might want to go to the lower mics a bit and free up some of the frequency spectrum for them to have their leads, and vice versa. When it's your time to get up front and do your leads, you know, you might want to get some more presence up there and punch through the mix. So it's a way to look at it. Or I'm in in-ear monitors. I'd probably react differently if I had my mains on, but you know, it's a good place just to dial your tone in as well, depending on your preference. We have spread, so there's multiple microphones on this cabinet. So spread goes from 0 to 180 degrees. And I know this stuff because if you mouse over the knobs, tooltips will appear, right? So here's a closer to mono tone. I assume it's still 2 mics, so can't be completely mono. And then here's a 180 degree spread. Let me go over the grid editor and turn off the rotary speed so we can hear this real quick. We'll just examine it real good on this one. No spread. It's such a difference when that rotary speed's turned off. Effective. Distance, so not only can we take the mics and spread them, but we can move them further or closer to the cab. Room mic, so who knows what room this was recorded in. Maybe this image represents it, but now we have room mics in here. So here's no room mic. Let's add it. So real quick, you could say, all right, I want a tighter, more direct tone, or I want a looser, more ambient tone. Harsh examples. And then if I double click on the knobs, they'll reset to the default value of the selected preset. We're on the basic preset, the first main preset right now. And we have a rotary drive. I don't know what's going on inside of this cabinet because people deck them out and there's different versions of them, but there's definitely tubes on the power amp in there, so they're probably just driving that tube power amp. That's an ignorant guess. Let's hear this drive. No drive. Get some low mid sizzle. I think we'll hear this drive more later because there's not much bass notes in this MIDI right now. So let's move on to dual cabinet delay. I don't know if that means there's actually two cabinets or they're recording one cabinet to multiple pieces of tape and doing the old tape delay trick because there is a tape delay module. And let's move over to, go faster, Heavy Pocket, which is a soul song. The tempo's 70, which is good. So when it comes to delays like this, you can wet it up when you're not shredding and doing progressive stuff. But let's hear this delay real quick, actually. Let me take the rotary speed off. We have a left time and a right time and how much the left repeats and how much the right repeats. Let me make it a little dramatic and random real quick. Very cool and fun. And if you're not sure what to do with this and you're playing faster tempo, crank them all down, right? And then just put them up just a squeak. I don't have anything premeditated, but just put them up a squeak. And you won't have an obvious delay effect, but you just kind of put a tail at the end of your note, and that might be cool. Get that rotary back. Oh, it's on. So this is the only preset with any delay, and it's this cool tape delay. And on the rotary, there's a reverb module. I don't know if that's inside the cab where they're putting it in the signal chain, but we have some reverb, and it's spring reverb, which is surprising to me because I'm real typical when it comes to spring reverb. I just want to hear it on the Fender Strat, and I don't really put it anywhere else, but a lot of engineers do. So I'm not a big fan of it due to its wiry, its sporadicness, you know, sounds like you're crumpling up tinfoil or something. That's how I feel about it. But in this EKX, I had to mouse over it and go, oh, wow, that's spring reverb, because it sounds not like spring reverb, not obvious, you know, so check it out. Is that rotary on? Yeah. Now check it out. The delay is on still. I mean, that's the coolest spring reverb I ever heard. I'll just put it at that. Not that I've sought out spring reverb too much. We've got drive. We've got the width module back. Let's check out good vibrato. Spring reverb's back. Got the drive. High, low, here's low. It's heavy. We got a mono button, which is really great for making a statement. Like here, we want to make sure you understand what this guy's playing. Let me just simplify it. Bam. Very broad and in your face in a good way. This one's called Gray Onions, and that was Heavy Pocket, a soul song. There's another soul song called Silky Smooth. We have an organ module this time, so there's a tone knob. I don't think Hammonds have just a tone knob on them. Maybe they do. So it's probably just added somewhere. Spring verb. We have our typical distance spread, low. High. That drive sounds so cool. Oh, this one started with mono activated. Let's spread it out. Very cool. This one's called modulation. So we have modulation and the rotary speed going. So let me disable the rotary. Let's hear what this modulation's doing. Is that flanger or a phaser? Whoa, 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 whoa. All right, cool. Low. Tight sound. That cleans up really good. Hear the clicking of the keys big time. We'll talk about how to control that later. Plate verb is back. Rotary drive. This next one's called piano preamp. No clue what preamp they're plugging into. As you can see, there's no rotary module, so maybe they're not even using the Leslie. There is, that pulsing is not the Leslie, that's this intensity, modulation intensity, so it's like a tremolo effect there. I just pulled it out. Bass. Treble. Maybe it's like plugging into like a Roland preamplifier or something like that. Just a guess. Amplifier, I mean. All right, and we have panning. So when you bring up this tremolo effect, turn on panning, it just kind of swings around like a helicopter. I like to slow the speed down before I do it because it's intense in headphones. If you like tremolo stuff, check out my videos on the Soul Rhodes. I mean, Soul Rhodes peppers tremolo all over the place, and it's also a very cool EKX. This reverb module doesn't say what it is. Just says mix. All right, what reverb is this? Couldn't tell you. Is that a Hall? I don't want to guess and be wrong. But I like to do those little ear training, guess what type of reverb this is. I'm not a master at it. I get it right a lot, but not about to guess that. This is throwing me off with that cool spring reverb they have. So this is the reggae library preset, and there's a reggae song called Off the Grid. Yeah, man. Let's do it. Let's be happy, everybody. So introducing the wear knob, which could be called age or one of many other things. And it says there's leakage. Like when you open up this beast, there's a bunch of tone wheels and they either have some sort of microphone or pickups on them. So I think the leakage is like a tone wheel leaking into the incorrect pickup or something like that. I need an expert to listen to this that knows where to listen when I turn this. But if I do something drastic, it just seems like a slight tone knob to my ignorant ears. We have this noise thing, and if you crank up your headphones right now, you know, it sounds like me putting on my headphones in my mom's basement when I was 12, you know? I mean, you kind of hear like the wiring of the house through it or something like that. It's just some like typical old school studio noise, maybe. That's my guess. And we have some spring verb. Let's hear a different riff. Here's the pre-chorus. Drive. Low. We don't have many bass notes going on in here. Mono. It's very cool. Rotary control. All right. This preset's unique. Here's that age knob. It's just like the wear knob from the previous reggae one. We have spring verb, low, high, distant. But look at this rotary. This is unique only to this preset. Now, when you set the rotary speed to slow, it goes at a particular speed. Wow, wow, wow. For example, when you set it to high, it goes to fast speed. Wow, 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 right? So this fast, wow, 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 can't really be controlled except for this preset. You have a max rotary speed right here. So check this out. It's the only preset where you can control the max speed. And more geekier and detailed than that is if you remember when you go from fast to slow or slow to fast, it takes time for those motors to wind up and wind down. So it takes time to transition from one speed to another. It takes like a second or so, something like that. We can actually control how long that transition is. So we can make the acceleration fast and the deceleration fast. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. And back up. Now compare the polar opposite. This takes a little while to wind down. This sounds pretty cool. Check it out. It's like 2-3 times longer. And back up. So that's rotary control, and it's pretty cool. Here's twin rotary. I don't know if that means there's 2 of these cabs out there or not. Spring verb. Room microphone. Drive. Low. High. Let's change the song. Let's change the preset to Worn. And let's get off the reggae. Let's go to Syncopated State, which is a funk song. Oh yeah, that sounds pretty chill to me. Plate reverb's back. Since it's not too fast, put this up a little bit. Low, high. That sounds like a real signature song they're trying to mimic. Do you know what song is that? Comment below. Drive. Oh, we have a rotary noise. Let's crank it up and listen. I mean, I don't know if I could ever like let me put that rotary noise in, and it's great. It's actually really freaking cool. I don't know how I would do it. That's ignorance is bliss, though. That sounds super cool, that noise. All right, there's 4 gospel tracks. This one's called Blessed. And there's 2 gospel songs. So let's do 2 presets per song. Get more to traditional organ now. Doesn't say what reverb this is. Low, high. That's powerful. It sounds good. Taking all those away. A lot of frequencies. A powerful preset. Drive. Sounds pretty darn cool. This one's called Cathedral Jam. We have hall reverb. And hall reverb, it's coming to me. All right, we have gospel songs. We have gospel presets and hall verb. So mimicking a large church, huge ceiling, square rectangle room. Yeah, hall reverb on just a piano, organ, or acoustic guitar, you know, it's generically very appropriate. The halls are typically square, but they work great for, you know, concert hall, piano hall. This one's called Slow Contemporary Gospel. Going to change the song, and this is Choral Trem. And we have hall reverb is back. Really, I was about to say the rotary is really strong, but look, there's a tremolo right there. They're doubling up. Let me disengage the rotary. They're doubling up a tremolo on top of rotary. It just seems really ballsy to do that, but all right, Toontrack, let's hear what a tremolo plus a rotary sounds like. And do I need my barf bag, or is this going to be good? All right. Is the rotary tames that tremolo, actually. I never would have even thought of doing that. House of Gospel, plate reverb's back. It's pretty busy. Low. High. Drive. Oh, that saturation grinding noise. Sounds cool. Do you hear those low notes? It's weird how you hear the circulating rotor with that distortion. Wow, how does it drive in? Metallica Orion, their instrumental from way back when, it opens up with Cliff Burton on the bass. I wonder if they like pulled out a Leslie for that or something. It just for some reason reminds me of that. Cozy Warmth. We're getting into blues and jazz, and there's one jazz song, one blues song. So here's Taking a Walk, the jazz song, and here's Cozy Warmth, the preset. Plate verbs back. It's a pretty busy song. I'm not even going to turn it up. Low. The MIDI is fun, dude. It's fun. Can really hear the clicks on the attack, which can be taken away if that turns you off. Very fun. This is folk jazz. Organ module, tone knob. Spring verbs back. Ambience room mics back. Low. Wild song. This is a jazz squabble. Age knob is back. Oh yeah, sounds killer. Spring verbs back. It's a good time for it too. Low. Mono button. All right, next one's called Jazzy Smith. Let's check out that blues MIDI. It's called 12-bar classic, probably 145. We got the age knob. I need sustaining chords to tell what that does, but we kind of know what it does already, so. It sounded a little bit more like spring reverb with just a staccato attack now that I listen to it. Cool. Low. Mono. Warm air. You know, warm is a good name to use for this. It just feels really comfortable. That is a woof from hell. Let me mix this a little bit here. Yeah, that feels great in these earbuds anyway. Cool. Whistler. Plate verbs back. Low. That sounds, it's just interesting. All right, so there's 4 rock library presets, and there's 2 rock songs, and then there's 2 songs called classic, and I assume that means classic rock. So let's do 1 song per preset. Here's classic prog rock. Oh, this one has a phaser. Let's turn off the rotary. Let's hear what that phaser's doing. The speed goes super fast. Cool. Spring verb. So there's a lot of drive to this. And it sounds like there's drive before we even hit this drive knob. It's like as distorted as we can get so far in this EKX. Low. High. This one's called Overdrive, and the next song is called Modern Retro. Low. These guys working this rotary speed switch while they're playing, I mean, it's some crazy stuff. Mono. Spring reverb's here, but we have 2 knobs, so that's more control. Let's go over to Rock Lord, and the song is Slow Rock, and this is the first classic song. Ah, dude, it's a guitar riff on an organ, man. Tone knob. Spring verbs here. Woo! That'll bite you depending on what you're playing. It sounded cool on the low notes, that's for sure. Space, ambience level. So, all right, so this says it's ambience. It just sounds like reverb to me, unless Toontrack rented out an airplane hangar. It sounds good regardless. This preset's called 70s Rock, and this is the song Rising. Oh yeah. I feel like if ZZ Top having an organist. Oh, this preset's unique because it has a guitar amp and the Leslie speaker at the same time. So here's the guitar amp, just pulled it out. Here's the Leslie Rotary speaker, just pulled it out. Now we hear nothing. Let's bring up that guitar amp. Got some plate verb. Let's add some of the Leslie cab, see what happens. There's a lot of high-end stuff happen. Oh, let's use the low mic of the Leslie cab. Oh man, you can get some combinations out of this. We got a tone knob right in the middle. That preset looks like fun. All right, this is under the soul and R&B genre, and there's one supposedly hip hop song called Hard Hitting. We just heard a bunch of rock songs, so we got to like down gear into a different vibe. Here we go. You have that age knobs back. That one's being a little more obvious than the last. Spring verb. Low. Mono. Drive. Cool. This one's called Old Gold. See if I missed any songs real quick. I think I got them all. So we have the wear knob, the age knob. I feel like it's a Doors song, Old Gold. Is that name a reference to a Doors thing? Oh, there's a noise module. It's similar to the first one we heard, not the second one. Spring verb, drive. Low. Mono. It's cool. 3 more presets. This is White Pale Shade. Spring verb, low. This one is really down low to begin with. Or my ears might be getting tired. Mono. You know, it's, you know, hard rock or classic rock distortion bass guitars. That reminds me of that gurgle. It's pretty cool. Some Loving is what this one's called. Let's switch the song. I think I hit the soul songs, but just in case I didn't. Spring verb. Oh, spring and plate verb. It's the only preset that has 2 separate reverbs. Be careful, it can get pretty messy. So, all right, so the drives are all the way up and it's on mono. That's why we're hearing such a particular tone. Oh, boy, that transformed that really fast. Very cool. The last one is line out. If you look here at the end, this is like a compressor. It's not working, it doesn't work dramatically. But if you have some heavy expression pedal hits, you'll hear it knock them down a little bit. So headroom, it's a distortion, but you don't turn it up to get it, you turn it down so it acts kind of like a threshold. I'm actually unfamiliar with the term of this with distortion, but I'm just using my ears and explaining it. Leakage, we already know what that is. Except with that old and worn knobs we heard already, this one seems a little more dramatic. We have a tone knob. So that's every library preset, and that's a snippet, if not every entire song. And if you're new to an organ workflow and this thing looks like a beast, stick around because we're going to pop open the hood and make sure you know how to use this whole EKX enough to get started with something. So let's rock and roll. Toontrack has updated the MIDI input settings for this EKX only. We won't see this on other EKXs. We could always use multiple controllers at once in Toontrack products, but in the Session Organ EKX, we can assign different MIDI controllers to the 2 different manuals and foot pedal of the Hammond. The main keyboards on the screen are called manuals, and underneath the organ is the foot pedal. We can assign multiple controllers by transmitting on different MIDI channels from your MIDI controllers and putting that information of which channel controls which manual here. For beginners, you'll probably have to go into the software that came with the controller to change its MIDI channel or refer to its user manual. You can also decide which octave each manual plays in here. And lastly, you can decide whether your controller keys play actual notes on the manual or if they change the Drawbar Presets, which are the reversed color keys on the manuals. When you hit those reversed color keys, your sound changes. More on how to use drawbars and their presets later. Now, if you only have one MIDI controller, you can instead select Split Range and divide up the manuals and foot pedal to start and end where you wish on your controller by entering the correct notes. Users with large keyboards should be able to do a bit here, and you can still decide whether you want your drawbar presets or if any at all. You can also change what your hardware sustain pedal does, whether it's used as a sustain pedal like you would with a regular piano, or it can change the rotary speed switch inside the Leslie speaker, which has the rotating speaker inside of it. When you've perfected this screen to your liking, you can choose whether to keep these settings every time you load this EKX or not by selecting in this menu. Now we have our MIDI controller set up. Let's also keep in mind that we can MIDI learn with the knobs and faders on our MIDI controllers. And with this EKX, it's a huge help since you can't access the organ panel and click with your mouse on a key of the organ at the same time. Just about every knob, button, fader, and drawbar can have a MIDI note or CC value assigned to them. Even the ones that don't look like a knob, like these 3 dials over here. The drawbars already have a CC value assigned by default. You can look in the grid editor here to see the values. But for me, to work quickly, I'll just right-click on any of these features I want to control, hit MIDI Learn, and control it with my hardware controller. Now I think I'm ready to rock and roll. What is unique about this EKX compared to others is not only can we change the sounds of each preset under the effects section, but we have this new organ section that lets us customize the drawbar presets and typical Hammond features. In EZkeys in general, when you change a library preset, you change the settings in the effects panel plus some behind-the-scenes processing. In the session organ EKX, when you change a library preset, you not only change the settings in the effects panel, but in the organ panel as well. So a ton of options can go into a preset, which you can manually tweak. So as we select a library preset and tweak the options within these two panels, if you like what you're hearing, you may want to save it as a user preset to recall later, because when you change to a new library preset, both the sound and organ panels will change and you will lose any adjustments you made up until that point. As we look at the organ panel, we see these vertical sliders called drawbars segregated into the three areas you can perform on with this organ: the upper manual, the foot pedal, and the lower manual. These drawbars are the main characteristics of the organ's tone. If you push one upwards, it is mute, and the more you pull it down, the louder it gets. There's no key command to make them mute, unfortunately, but if you double-click them, they will revert to their default value depending on which library preset you're using. Now, if you mouse over them for a tooltip, they will explain exactly what they do. And myself not being inexperienced with organs, besides mixing them live, these explanations don't help me too much. So I will explain them in a way to you that for me as an intermediate guitarist might understand. And keep in mind, there are a ton of videos out there to explain this to you with the proper vocabulary if you want to take this further, or by all means, comment below. If I mute all of these drawbars, the organ will not make any sound, which is a good place to start if you're learning, but also a good thing to remember if any of the organ sections aren't making any sounds in the first place. So let's work on the first upper manual section. Now, if I hit middle C on my keyboard and want to hear a middle C note from EZkeys, it's not the first drawbar. It's the third one that is white. You'll notice it just sounds generic before we add more drawbars to it. Knowing this white drawbar is the root note that matches what I'm playing on my keyboard, we'll leave it on so we can compare the rest of the drawbars to it. The first brown drawbar is the root, but an octave lower. The second brown drawbar, which may seem odd since it's before the root note, is actually a fifth above the root note. So using just these two drawbars is a power chord. Using the next white drawbar after the root is the root again, but an octave higher. Using the next black drawbar is the root an octave higher plus a fifth. Using the next white drawbar is 2 octaves above the root. Using the next black drawbar is 2 octaves above the root plus a major third. Using the next black drawbar is 2 octaves up plus a fifth. And using the last white drawbar is 3 octaves above the root. So these drawbars are how an organ harmonizes on its own and has that enormous and unique sound. And when you choose a library preset in EZkeys, not only does the effects panel change, but everything on this organ panel as well. It's a ton of variables. You'll notice as you play around, some things have extra unintended harmonics. That's just the nature of the beast. It's not something you can fix. If you want to dive really deep, look up the B3 Owner's Manual. It will give you drawbar recipes for certain sounds and so much more. You can just Google it if you wish. So the lower manual works exactly the same as the upper manual, but these 2 brown drawbars in the middle are only for the foot pedal. And to avoid me guessing exactly what harmonics I'm hearing, I'll just say that the left one is a lower registered chord, and the right one is a higher registered chord, and they both accentuate the root of the note that you play. So when you look at a B3, you see the inverted key colors on the left of the manuals. These change the drawbar presets to instantly change your sound as you play. Or you can even do it later on when you're editing by adding notes in the appropriate area in the grid editor. And back to the organ panel, you'll notice that each of the manuals have their own drawbar preset menu and show you which key on your keyboard can select which preset in real time while you play. We literally have a hierarchy of presets here. You select a library preset which has its own effects panel settings, but simultaneously you also call up 2 additional drawbar presets on the organ panel. So that's drawbars. I hope you feel more confident when you come to this panel. Organs don't have dynamics like an acoustic instrument. They simply have volume, or in this case, expression. This expression knob can change both overall volume and harmonics. In guitar terms, this is like having a volume pedal at the end of your signal chain. And these 2 buttons next to it decide extra expression characteristics. Again, relating to guitar, it's like a boost switch to take a lead or something like that. Remember, everything is MIDI mappable to your hardware. You can even change the expression pedal with your mouse here, or map a hardware expression pedal similar to a guitarist's volume pedal to control it. The scanner vibrato can be used on either of the 2 manuals when activated, and the mode is either the vibrato or chorus effect dictated by the letter V or C, and the number represents its intensity. It's easy to confuse this with the rotating effect that the Leslie speaker makes, since rotating sounds similar to tremolo. So I'm going to present this on the Rock Lord library preset so we don't confuse it with the sound of the rotating speaker. Here's vibrato first, from the lowest to highest intensity. And here's the chorus presets. The percussion section I view as having an extra effect pedal to stomp on. It's a great way to get attention or for your leads to pop. Some rules come with it though, so check this out. Percussion only works on the upper manual, and when you enable it, it replaces your last white drawbar. So if that drawbar is not on, you will not hear it. Also, you cannot play legato and expect the last white drawbar to sound off. You must release a note before you play the next note. It's pretty wild. Make sure the last drawbar is pulled out and don't play legato to hear the percussion effect. And the buttons are self-explanatory. Do you want it to sound soft or not? Do you want the note to decay or sustain more or less? And lastly, what harmony it should play. Engaging just the root note should help you judge which harmony is best. And lastly, the click sound. It's the same idea as the hammer sounds in the other EKXs, except an organ has a sharper, percussive, attacking sound when you play it, and you can decide its volume or completely remove it here. It also seems just the clicking sound has round robin, which is a great, cute little detail. So this new EKX has 3 separate performable areas, and the grid editor reflects that. Since a lot can be happening at one time, Toontrack made it so you can focus on the MIDI notes of just one area at a time by hitting these eyeball icons. So now it's easier to edit only that specific manual or foot pedal visually. Better than that, when things sound too busy, you can solo up just one of the 3 playable areas using the headphone icons, a fantastic feature to help you focus while editing. And underneath is the MIDI values editor. We could spend hours here. Select the menu to expand it. By default, the expression pedal data is here. Using the pen or arrow tools, you can add, delete, and manipulate this data and change the way it was played. You can also select any other feature that has a CC control and manipulate them as well, like all the drawbars and buttons and so on. This is a very meticulous place to be, but if you can't perform this stuff live like myself, here's your tool set to edit in or out what you want. More on this in my other videos. Also, in Bandmate specifically, when the session organ EKX is loaded, the organ filter is selected by default. Though this is convenient if you want to search only the MIDI that came with the session organ EKX or future releases that have an organ tag, it can actually limit your options big time if you've invested in other Toontrack MIDI. So don't forget to disable this tag if you want more search results. Lastly, Toontrack has gone a little crazy with their MIDI file and song track integration. Since we have 3 performable sections with this organ and a separate grid for each on the grid editor, the song track allows you to record to any of these destinations separately in the MIDI file depending on how you set up your controllers in the MIDI input settings. What is cooler than that is you can export from the song track just 1, 2, or all 3 performable areas of the organ to their own MIDI file depending on what you select when exporting. It might come in handy to just get your bass lines over to EZbass, for example. I love the details. Nice work, Toontrack. I'm impressed that this is just another EKX, yet it has so much more than the average EKX. So if you've been waiting years for this release, I hope you're satisfied with it. I had a great time checking it out. I'm Sean from Shootie School. Check out ShootieSchool.com for complete courses and more free videos. Subscribe and give me a comment below if you got something out of this video. Rock on.